sort of became obvious from the very start of the first episode that your sensibilities are a match made in heaven. I'm thinking of maybe Ronnie Sandahl, from my perspective, your poetic sensibilities, and Daniél's your sort of heist film energy.
Brute force.
The brute force. Exactly. Both the muscle and the brain, but also overlapping.
I have the muscles at least.
There's a lot of poetry in this man.
Do you feel like, is that true? Do you feel like you complete each other?
But I mean, we was brought up, you know, together. When Ronnie started, when he was 19, 20 years old, I met him for the first time, and the Swedish Film Institute made him his mentor. So in many ways, you know, when I did Easy Money, Ronnie walked next to me, and then Ronnie became, you know, a huge director when he won with Tigers. He won Rome's Film Festival, which is one of the finest festivals on the planet. And when you do that movie, it's based on a kind of you know, a tradition of realism, you know, that I'm very happy if I can, you know, with this movie, you know, also be part of it.
Yeah, and for me it was from the get-go a dream to have Daniél as a director. I mean, I had an intention to lure him back into the gritty Swedish filmmaking again, and I got the feeling instantly that you were kind of longing to go back into that kind of, yeah, I mean, poetry and brutality that I think we share as filmmakers. So for me, for me, that's the single biggest and greatest decision of this whole project is having Daniél on board.
Very happy. But you know, it was not just me. I directed these two, but there are two other directors that I'm very grateful: Anna Zachrisson and Jonas Anglis.
You mentioned that, Daniél, you were Ronnie's mentor when you took the leap from being a journalist at Aftonbladet, a young talent, but you wanted to do something else, you want to try your luck in filmmaking, and Daniél, you took Ronnie under your wings. Do you remember anything he taught you?
Oh well, yeah, a lot. Yeah, and it was a revelation in so many ways to see Daniél work and to kind of understand how he managed to get everybody on set to feel, you know, like they're part of something bigger. And I think it was so interesting to see, you know, the difference when, you know, shadowing you 15 years ago compared to now, when we worked together on this one. And to see that it's the same hunger, even more hunger in a way. But at the same time, you become even better at, you know, creating this kind of cult on set. I've never been to a more quiet set than your sets.
Sounds scary.
No, but in a brilliant way. People are so focused. They know what to do, and they know why they're there, and there's the sense of being a part of something bigger, which I think is, except for the you know, very clear, you know, capacity and talent you have, it's also to create that kind of concentration. I think you see that in the material as well, that kind of feverish quality, and I aim for that as well in my writing. So I think I learned a lot from you, but I think also it's been quite fantastic to kind of meet up as grown-ups again.
Well, to me, it was, you know, to get a script like this, which is about real people, you know, wonderful scenes, it's not, you know, that difficult as a director. You know, I really got like a golden opportunity, you know, from Ronnie, you know, I really enjoyed working at it. It was beautiful.
And you said, Daniél, somewhere that it felt like coming home or something, or realizing that this...
It was weird, because, you know, when I did the movie here last time, it was 2009, you know? So then I come back, and it's the same fucking year.
Still 2009.
You know? It's the same cell phones, you know, like gasoline cars. It was like nothing had happened, you know. So, you know, but it was nice. It was like, I worked together with a production designer called Roger Rosenberg, who's incredible. He also works with Alex Sari. And Roger and me, we created like a Stockholm, kind of Irish Stockholm with Stamakash, and it was nice to kind of revisit that idea of our version of Stockholm.
Do you feel like, I mean, 2009, it's not that long ago, but still, it is in many ways. Do you feel like
it's crazy? You know, like 2009, the iPhone had existed for 1 month. Imagine that. You know, no smartphones. It was a different world, and it's 14 years ago.
You have the old retro-looking subway trains that we all grew up with. I remember when we did a short introduction at our outdoor cinema summer screening this summer, and I asked you to recap the story of the robbery for those who didn't remember. But then after, when I walked back down in the crowd, everyone was like 15 years old, and no one, of course they don't remember. What was I going to say with that?
No, it's only us old fools.
For them, it's like
the robbery.
Norman Story's drama, or like the Stockholm syndrome. I'd say so. It is some way of capturing something, another time and another era. Was there anything particular you think? Is there anything that's changed now from looking back at that time in Stockholm?
I mean, wrong.
Apart from the iPhone.
No, but I mean, you know, it has a lot to do with it. You know, you have the Encron chats, you know, which are illegal phones, which criminals can use, which you can, you know, order hits on people you never have to meet. You know, it changes, you know, the closeness that people have to each other. Many things have radically changed. You know, in this era, the criminal world in Sweden worked in the way that if you as a criminal boss left your area, you lost all control. Now all bosses are outside. So it was a very different world. It was more like, it was in many ways like the end of the kind of the post-Cold War Stockholm and the dawn of you know, this new modern world we're living right now.
Yeah, I think you can see it as an end of it's robbery as an end of a criminal era where you had this generation of elite robbers that you know, since nowadays, you know, no one really robs a bank anymore. But back then, I mean, late 90s and early 2000s, Sweden had the most värdetransportrån.
Yeah, there was sort of a peak of
we had the most
activity.
of those kind of robberies, what's it called, CIT robberies, in Europe at the time, and that kind of fostered a generation of robbers that only did robberies. I mean, that weren't really, they weren't gangsters, they were part of a different sector of the criminal economy that also involved a kind of different kind of people. And that was part of what I was most fascinated about with, you know, diving into this world and this story, this kind of era of Swedish criminality. And also, you know, interviewing the actual robbers, that they were so damn intelligent and that they had this kind of A personalities in type A personalities that you normally kind of meet with super athletes or, you know, people very high up in the military or in the business world. So I think those kind of robbers doesn't necessarily exist anymore.
Yeah. It wasn't just about the money, it was also about making something that people said was impossible. I think you described this värdedepå in Västberga as sort of the white whale of robberies in Stockholm.
Yeah, and I think
because you have written films about athletes, and so it's sort of a world that you have studied as well.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to be fascinated by extreme characters that have this kind of extreme ambition and this obsessiveness around details, Yeah, so there were a lot of things that felt, for me, that felt kind of close to something I knew something about. And I think in a way there's a lot of similarities between making a heist and making a movie or a TV show as well. So I think there's, putting together the team and stealing the money and yeah. So
you were mentioning earlier the whole vibe of the feverish vibe of what we've seen, and I was struck by that as well. I was like locked in the whole way. How do you? It's in the cinematography, it's in the editing, it's in the acting, it's in the sound, it's in the music, and the direction, of course, and the script. But how do you? How do you create that? Can you talk a bit about that?
I'm just engaged in the characters. If you're 5 years old and you lose your teddy bear, it's a huge disaster. So according to every person's personality, their life is always the most important thing that exists. I don't do anything. I just try to really believe them and their problems and let me kind of instinctively follow them. That's my method. It's just that nothing works well.
I think, Ronnie, you described the heist as a game or play gone too far. Would you remember saying that? And would you elaborate on that? En lek som gick för långt in Swedish.
Yeah, maybe it was me trying to draw, point out similarities between filmmaking and robberies. I always have the feeling when I make a film or a TV show like this that it starts with me having a silly idea about something, and then it just grows and grows and grows to a point where when you come to set and you feel like you've started, like when you were a kid and you started a game and it went too far, and I imagine that's how it must have felt when they stood up on the roof, looking down on the cops. Yeah, it's a silly idea that,
What ball have you started to roll?
Yeah.
It's too late now. What was I gonna ask you about? Do you want to say something about the cast and choice of actors here? Because they're all.
I love my actors. I think they're wonderful. Don't you like these robbers? I love all of them. I love Iskra. Our cop. Vika, my son. My good friend Johanna. Aldaran, Mahmoud, they're wonderful. And what I do is often is that, I hire, when I hire actors, I work with this casting director called Jeanette Klintberg. And I just do, he's great. And I do long castings. I think maybe that's the one difference. My castings are an hour long. Because, when I start casting, I haven't made a movie, for 2 years. That's how it always is, because I don't do commercials. So I'm so, green. So I need to be there for a long time to kind of get going, And I just like actors. I like being with them, I like working with them. I'm fascinated by them. I feel that we as directors, the movie crew, we are like, chickens, we dress in black, we hide behind our cameras, and then the actor comes out and explodes, so it's, I adore actors. I think that's why they're good.
And as we said, there are many good actors in this series. I'm wearing my Adidas track zipper tonight in a celebration of Mahmoud, who's really great. He's here. definitely, in many ways, a man going through some sort of crisis, which is the theme of this year's festival. So I'll have to tie that in some way. I wrote in the program description that the helicopter heist illustrates with great Hollywood tension how men would rather rob a värdedepå in Västberga by helicopter than go to therapy. I don't know if that's like on point, but just something. Maybe you both can say something about like the internal men dealing with the crisis situation and how that fuels the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's always been a part of, you know, the identification in this story, that it's not, you know, it's not about George Clooney on a luxury yacht. It's about real human beings and real, you know, men, fathers, and also mothers in the background, and they have it's about real human beings with real stakes. And I think for me I've been fantasizing for a long time about making something within the heist genre, but inject real human stakes into it, because it always felt to me like that would be so much more interesting than what they normally do with, you know, it's at least quite often the heist genre has this kind of, you know, caricatures of human beings, and I think that goes for the both of us, that we're very interested in human beings, not only men, even though there are a lot of men in this one.
Going through crisis.
Well, you know, I think that all human beings' lives are much more desperate and ecstatic and horrible. So I believe that what I really enjoy doing, the moments that I'm successful, it gives me great joy to have at least some part of the audience understand people when they commit to actions that you would never do. Kind of a transfer of empathy. Empathy is such a ridiculous word, you know, because when you say empathy, you think of somebody taking care of a small puppy, you know. But if you think of empathy like something great, that you manage to transfer your heart into another person and they feel their sorrows and their hope. That's the ambition. So.
You were talking about the heist film and sort of one last job sub-genre that there's many like cliches and tropes. How did you both like talk about what you wanted to sort of include and was there things you wanted to avoid, or was there?
You think of like the Godfather list. Have you heard, guys, about that? The Godfather list. When Francis Ford Coppola did the Godfather, when he was doing the wedding scene, he wrote a long list of like cliches about Italians that I don't want in the fucking movie. That's how we did the scene.
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
You didn't have that.
No, we like cliches.
A couple of them can you know, if you use a cliche now and then in the right way, it can also be something familiar that feels like home. I love that kind of one last job thing. One, because it was true, and two, because it's so lovely to see them, you know, kind of replicate film, but in reality. I know it's on film, but you see what I mean? It's you know, because also real life imitates films.
Yeah.
So I think it's, as long as you're kind of true to the moment and true to how people actually talk and behave, I think it's fine. As long as you know what you're doing.
Sure. Speaking of the reality and fiction, this is both a story from real life, but it's also an adaptation of a book, which you have worked on before with Skildrar, based on the book In the Shadow of San Siro, I guess it translates into English. Could you say something about how that process was for you, and also maybe about what we see, like where did you draw the line between what you what's fiction and what's reality, and how you think about that?
That's a big question. I mean, to begin with, I of course stand on the shoulders of Jonas Bonnier's book. An applause to Jonas. So he did a lot of the groundwork, and then, of course, I mean, he wrote it with his temperament and his view on the world, and I needed to do it in my way. Plus, the fact that it had gone several years since the book came out, and I wanted to make my own interviews and kind of find my own details from the ones involved in the robbery that want to speak to me. And some of them were very generous to listen to my stupid questions for hours and hours and hours. And I think that's the way to do it. I mean, you need to find yourself in a material and in a story. I've done a couple of stories based on reality before, and it's always, you know, a matter of finding the human elements that I connect with. And if I connect with them, I'm fairly sure that it might connect with someone else as well.
You both have experience from the Hollywood studio system, and I remember when we talked a little bit this summer, you were very impressed by, you were hyping Daniél as one of the few directors here in Sweden who could do different technical stuff that's maybe later in the series. You don't have to like give away too much, but maybe my question is what you bring, what kind of experience you brought with you from working in Hollywood, I guess.
From America?
Yeah, from America.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Everything I have is from here. I was just no, but I mean, in reality, I've got an experience, and but maybe like the freedom to do things that you can do with a higher budget, design a spaceship, do a whole movie with zero gravity. It's fun things, but I must say that coming back to Sweden, it was also about coming back to a different kind of language, and more try to kind of reconcile with myself what I've left behind that maybe I shouldn't have left behind. So for me, it was more about trying to discover myself here than bringing my history, like a bad dinner date and talk about the past, so.
Right. The past is the past.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're back in 2009.
Yes.
Which we are all thankful for. Before we wrap, no spoilers, but can you tell us something about what to expect from the rest of the series? I've heard rumors about an episode 6. That's kind of special one.
I mean, it's a great robbery. The robbery took 36 minutes. That's an episode, so that the episode 6 is the robbery, and I think I'm trying to make the audience the 4th member of the robbery crew. So let's see if I succeed with that.
Well, we very much look forward to seeing that. Thank you, Daniél Espinosa.